right, Chet, this one came out a couple months ago. So this one is how modern feminism scammed a generation of women, which I think could be interesting because a lot of the shit that we're seeing these days is in regard to quote unquote feminism. That is what we're seeing with a lot of this. And so, yeah, it's not, I think it probably might be more than one generation. So, kind of curious where the scam comes into play. I have suspicions. I do have suspicions about this, but I'm going to let her cook and see what she has to say.
One second, feminism is demonizing men for objectifying women, and in the next, it's encouraging girls to sell their body on OnlyFans so that men can objectify them. I mean, which is it? Are you sexually empowered, or are you a victim of oppression? I used to consider myself a feminist until I realized that women were using it as a means to justify going out like this and then complaining about being called hot. Shorty, have you seen your own ass? I swear to God, women are the only ones that can spend 2 hours doing their makeup and picking out an outfit and then still say they don't want to be judged on their appearance. Girl,
okay, this girl is spitting facts. This is true to the nth fucking degree. Is that so many women these days are basically literally wanting it both ways simultaneously. Phrasing. Yeah, well, but Revan, it's the old "I dress up for me" excuse, and then screaming misogyny when a man appreciates how you look. So is that it is literally the wanting their cake and eating it too. Because we're seeing that all over the place. It's the whole body positivity thing, but also be healthy. And it's dressing like a whore and then getting offended when you get called out for dressing like a whore. It's the OnlyFans thing, like she was talking about at the beginning, where, you know, girls saying, you know, don't sexualize us, but there's the encouragement to go on OnlyFans and have some fucking sexual revolution or you know, taking it back for yourself. It's literally the scarecrow pointing in both directions, mate.
you literally pulled up your leggings to your third rib and gave yourself the ultimate wedgie. We know you didn't dress like this for you. When you look at the actual definition of feminism, all it is supporting women having access to equal rights. I'm not gonna sit here and call myself an anti-feminist as someone who agrees with the core definition of feminism. But the problem is that the word has evolved to mean something very different. It's not just about women's rights anymore, there are other ideological strings attached. A major concept of modern feminism has been encouraging sexual liberation. This was started partly due to the double standard around sexuality for men and women. When a man frequently engages in casual sex, he's considered a stud, but when a girl does it, she's considered a slut. Sexual promiscuity leads to less satisfaction in relationships for both genders. Just because it's more socially acceptable for a guy to have casual sex doesn't mean women should be trying to match that expectation by normalizing it. Two wrongs don't make a right, and promoting a destructive behavior under the marketable guise of sexual liberation is abhorrent. It's so interesting how women...
Okay, one thing I think I should point out here. When she's referring to, like, sexual promiscuity, I don't believe this is in relation to people that have normal, healthy sexual relationships where they will date someone and during the course of the relationship they have sex and they are together for a while, things don't work out, they break up, and then both may find new partners that they form relationships with, and then they have sex and they are together for a while. I don't think it's referring to that. Yeah, Zeb, that's where I'm going. It's basically talking about the girls who are like, I've got 100 my body counts 100. Or my body counts 50. It's basically talking about the girls and the guys that basically are fucking someone new every night or every couple of nights. It's the booty call culture. It's the hookup culture. It's, you know, that's, yeah. That, I think, is what she's talking about when it's talking about, like, promiscuity leads to less satisfaction. Just for clarity's sake.
Promoting a destructive behavior under the marketable guise of sexual liberation is abhorrent. It's so interesting how women constantly complain about how shallow and objectifying their relationships with men are, but then promote hookup culture, which directly encourages this exact transactional process. If feminism actually cared about women as much as it claims to, the movement would be encouraging them to be more selective about their sexual partners. It would be educating them about the negative effects of casual sex, since we know that it leads to decreased relationship satisfaction, loneliness, and depression. And look, I know people are going to take this as me trying to tell women how to live. That's not what I'm doing at all. You have all the freedom in the world to live exactly how you please. However, where I do have an issue is when a cultural movement is built on a foundation of lies. If you're gonna have an entire movement, an entire ideology who claims its very goal is to benefit women, then encourage behavior that actually benefits women. At one point, this movement had genuinely pure intentions. It's the reason I have a right to vote and work and be educated. Feminism changed our lives as women for the better. So I'm sorry, but I can't help but feel like now it's doing the complete opposite. It's a common feminist position to be anti-tradwife. They insist that tradwives have some sort of Stockholm syndrome where they've fallen in love with their own oppression, claiming that it perpetuates traditional gender roles which have held women back. But I thought what actual feminism was supposed to be about was supporting women's freedom of choice. That means supporting them if they choose.
Yeah, not wrong. It's the feminism. Fuck, words are hard. The feminism in the workplace is a completely different animal from the core aspect of feminism. Whereas being treated equally and having equal rights and having the freedom of choice is not the same thing as the feminism of the work culture. Now, should there be the whole thing about equal pay for equal work? Sure, that's a whole different discussion. But this is about taking the freedom of choice and equal rights and morphing it into don't be ashamed of your body count. And so, I've said this too many times before. It is a movement that started off with positive intentions, and granted, it happened later than most current movements. But this is a movement that basically got co-opted and twisted and morphed into basically something that is completely unrecognizable from its original intention. It's the same thing with literally every movement we've seen in basically the last 20 years. Where it gets co-opted and twisted and morphed, and so it's no longer recognizable. And now the current version is being held aloft on the pedestal of feminism when it's the furthest thing from it. And it's basically just saying, let women do whatever the fuck they want with no consequence. You know, it's basically it's an attempt to elevate women to a status above men. So it's gone from putting women to a status of equal with men, as it should be, and now it's changed from women being equal to men in terms of rights and choice, and basically saying women should be higher than men now. Men should be beneath women in this respect. And that is what it is turned into.
Choose to climb the corporate ladder and supporting them if they choose to be a housewife. I thought the whole point of feminism was to respect a woman's freedom of choice, even if it's not the choice we would personally make. It was to recognize that there's not a one-size-fits-all lifestyle for women and that they should be able to prioritize what's important to them. Feminism will argue against this by saying that choices don't exist in a vacuum and society impacts your ability to make autonomous decisions, but you can make that exact same argument on the other side too. I could sit here and tell you that your decision to be a feminist is because social media has brainwashed you into believing that women are oppressed. So your choice to be a feminist isn't a real choice at all, but instead a reaction to your cultural environment. You can run in circles forever trying to make this argument against either side. That's because it's a dumb argument. Who are you to assume that another woman's choices aren't autonomous? The mere assumption of that is actually quite anti-feminist of you. This is the female version of Sneeko calling everyone who disagrees with him a bot. You're accusing grown women.
Not only a bot. It's the female version of Sneeko. We're calling everyone that disagrees with you a misogynist, a Nazi, or a fascist. Like, let's not fuck with this. Every single quote unquote feminist where someone disagrees with a point that they've made, instantly, it is like it is a trigger reflex. You're a misogynist, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist. That is their instantaneous response anytime someone disagrees. Just disagrees with the point. Not saying you're a bitch, you're a whore, you should get back in the kitchen. None of that. Just saying, I don't actually agree with this, the point that you're making. This doesn't sound right. And instead of like engaging in discussion, they go, fuck you, you misogynist prick, you Nazi, you fascist. That's their instantaneous response. There's no discourse, no discussion. They've been so fucking brainwashed by the quote unquote modern feminist that it's all about bow to our whims or be canceled. And Sneeko is basically just an asshole screamer. Sneeko is best known for, he was the guy that pulled that basically threatened Charlie on stream and said, look at these clips, showing him the magazine of his pistol and calling them clips, and Charlie responding with, you moron, those are not clips, those are mags. These are mags. And then pulling out his completely jacked up AR-15 and saying, this is a mag, you moron. That's Sneeko, the guy who was calling magazines clips.
Of being incapable of coming to their own autonomous conclusions. That means you're doing the exact thing that you constantly accuse men of doing to you. Maybe some women like traditional gender roles. That's cool. Let them do their thing just like you're allowed to do yours. I'm the most masculine woman I've ever met. I should be the first in line to be championing the end of traditional gender roles. But I'm not like this because I'm resisting the patriarchy. This is just a part of how I am. I like buying stocks, playing with boobs. I'm just a chill guy. WAP. Women against porn. Except in today's terms, it means wet ass put. With modern feminism currently preaching sexual liberation.
Yeah. Hang on. Let me get to it. Where is it? Yeah. This is modern feminism. Modern feminism is Nicki Minaj with the hit song Wet Ass Pussy. That's modern feminism, because every modern feminist is screaming slay queen because Nicki Minaj is out there talking about fucking everything that moves. That is modern fucking feminism. Fuck everything that moves, no consequences to me because I'm a strong, independent woman. That's the whole crux of the modern feminist, is strong, independent woman, don't need no man, but the man should do whatever the woman says, and the woman is never at fault. She is the perfect creature. She can never be at fault. That's the modern feminist.
With modern feminism currently preaching sexual liberation, it may be surprising to learn that at one point it was the complete opposite. In the 1970s, anti-pornography was a growing part of feminism. And when you think about it, it actually makes perfect sense, because it's consistent with the core values of feminism, to demonize the objectification of women and stop the fetishization of sexual violence against them. We know that porn is overwhelmingly aggressive towards women. We also know that consumers are more likely to commit acts of sexual violence, less likely to intervene if they witness an assault, and more likely to objectify and
Okay, hold up. Men who view porn are significantly less likely to interview as a bystander, report increased behavior, intent to SA, and are more likely to believe SA myths. Now this study was back in 2011. Bearing in mind, this statement came from 2011. And men, you tell me, because my gut reaction is less likely to intervene as a bystander. Yeah, and Zeb, yeah, it does depend upon their data, the sample size, etc. Because I would argue that men less likely to interview as a bystander or report an increased behavioral intent to commit SA or believe the rape myths is because men have been burned so much. Every time a man has tried to intervene as a bystander, called out increased behavior with intent, or like not believe the myths or everything, is because men have been burned so badly. And this comes from rape, false rape allegations. It's come from when men do try to intervene, they are viewed as the bad guy. So I'm going to call bullshit on this. I'm going to call bullshit on this study, that it's because of porn that is causing them to facilitate these behaviors. No, it's because society has demonized the living fuck out of men, so that they feel if they interject as a bystander, or the whole thing regarding the SA myths, is because they have been fucked over so much, and they're just like, I don't want to even be involved. Because the women are far more likely to hang a man, even if he's trying to do right, and the courts are going to side with the woman before they'll side with the man. And so men are just like, fuck this, I'm out entirely. You're on your own. You dug your grave, now go lie in it. So yeah, I'm going to call bullshit on this study.
Acts of sexual violence, less likely to intervene if they witness an assault, and more likely to objectify.
Okay, and then the next one says, consistent with expectations, association between men's exposure to objectifying media and attitudes supporting of violence against women were mediated by the notions of women as sex objects. Specifically, frequency of exposure to men's lifestyle magazines that objectify women, reality TV programs that objectify women, and pornography predicted more objectified cognitions about women, which in turn predicted stronger attitudes supportive of violence against women. Bullshit. And this says pornography leads to an increased likelihood for women to perpetuate violence as well. Yeah. And Tamashi, that's where I was going to. You're gonna put in reality TV programs into this study? I want to know what fucking reality TV show these scientists watched that resulted in the objectification and violence against women. What fucking reality show were they watching? Because I don't know any reality show that has ever been fucking made that involves women being objectified and promoting violence against women by men. Let me also put that in. Objectification and violence against women by men. What fucking reality show is that? Jersey Shore? Jersey Shore objectified the fuck out of the men just as much as they objectified the fuck out of the women. And the violence was primarily against the men in Jersey Shore, not against the women. Yeah, there were catfights, but primarily it was the guys going after one another. And not to mention the girls, oh my sweet fuck, the girls in the Jersey Shore. Fucking plastic from head to toe. Those are some of the ugliest bitches I've ever had the misfortune of seeing. Like, bruh. Heckle, this came out in 2011, so my guess is no. It probably didn't include trans men and trans women.
To humanize women. Porn is seriously bad for both genders, but especially women. So to see the feminist movement glorify platforms like OnlyFans and other adult content feels like a complete slap in the face. How can you possibly complain about how oppressive it is to be objectified and then objectify yourself for profit? I don't understand how modern feminists have come to this conclusion. Actually, that's a lie. I do understand. I completely understand. Because it would go against the sexual liberation movement. It goes against the sex positivity narrative. But one honest look at the statistics.
There it is. It goes against the narrative of Slay Queen. Again, being co-opted. It's don't objectify women, but also women are going to actually facilitate themselves being objectified, and don't tell me what I can do with my body. You see what I'm saying here with the scarecrow meme of pointing about directions? Don't objectify me. But let me do whatever the fuck I want with my body, and if I want to objectify myself towards men, you can't say boo about it. You can't say that's wrong either. Literally, again, wanting it both ways, wanting their cake and eating it too.
And it's blatantly clear. There's nothing liberating or positive about this industry. So what happened? Why did the anti-corn feminist protests stop? This article explains it perfectly. Anti-corn feminists were labeled sex negative in an era of feminism that was heavily influenced by liberalism. Individual choices, as opposed to mass liberation, became the forerunning feminist agenda. If that doesn't perfectly encapsulate the modern feminist movement, I don't know what does. The current movement wants all the ideals of feminism without having to sacrifice anything for it. The movement doesn't want to give up porn. It doesn't want to give up casual sex. That would be infringing on my personal freedoms. But maybe true liberation requires some personal sacrifice of those beloved freedoms. You can't eat a pound of cake every day and expect to lose weight. Your goals require a sacrifice.
Well, not if you talk to the body positivity crowd. If you talk to those body positivity nut jobs, they'll say, absolutely, you should be able to eat a pound of fucking cake and lose weight every day. Are we seeing the Scarecrow meme again?
The issue of equal pay is another primary subject that feminists bring up. It's also probably the #1 most misrepresented topic in feminism. The gender pay gap does not exist because of the patriarchy oppressing women. The pay gap only exists because women are more likely to choose lower paying jobs. If you compare a man and a woman working at the same place, in the same position, with the same amount of experience working the same amount of hours, the pay is exactly the same. But when you compare the average income of men versus women, there's obviously going to be a gap. This is because men choose careers like car mechanics and truck driving, whereas women choose careers like teaching and nursing. A quick comparison of these incomes, and it's easy to see why there's a pay gap. It's not misogyny that creates this gap, it's just preference. Women have all the freedom in the world to go be an automotive mechanic, just like men can become teachers, but that's not typically what each gender wants to do on average. So from the
Well, and one thing I will say is hiring practices by these respective companies are skewed. You are, an auto repair shop is more likely to hire a male mechanic versus a female mechanic, whereas schools are more likely to hire female teachers than male teachers. And yeah, teachers are paid almost nothing, but that's a whole different issue in regards to what teachers get paid. That is a completely different issue that has nothing to do with feminism. So yeah, in regards to the pay gap, it's not simply that women, quote unquote, choose to work in lower paying jobs. It's that the hiring practices of occupations as a whole are skewed in a way that X jobs will usually only hire men and X jobs will usually only hire women. Now, in the modern day, we've added a new wrinkle to it where jobs will only hire, where it's not only simply that certain jobs will only hire men, certain jobs will only hire women, it's also what is their demeanor, what is their attitude. If you have a woman applying for a job that typically might be for a woman, and said woman has the liberal arts degree or the women's studies degree, and has it has the attitude of, well, I only want to work 5 hours and I need to this and this, the freaking millennial shit that we hear about, well, they're not going to get hired either. And yeah, then that's before we even start getting into the whole DEI thing, rather. That's the DEI thing. Again, that is separate because that's not strictly about women. So it's a little sideways from it.
Outside, when you show the statistic of the gender pay gap, everyone's jaw drops and jumps to conclusions about sexism, but if you just look a little deeper, it's easy to see why it's there. If you're a woman and you're unhappy with your salary as a teacher, go be a truck driver. It is actually that simple. Something I can't stand about the feminist movement, and really many other modern movements, is how evasive they are to taking responsibility. If you're not happy with your pay, change jobs. You don't have to.
And yeah, Llama, that comment slipped by me. Yeah. That's also on the opposite side of the equation, is that if a man shows interest in a field where it involves children, yes, it will, that man is looked at as a predator. Again, taking the whole concept and twisting it so that men can no longer, in a platonic way or in a non-pedo way, want to work with children. This is another stereotype on the completely opposite end, where women can only work with children because women are the maternal ones, and so of course they would never harm children, ignoring of course the fact of how many female teachers have actually fucked their students and basically committed child assault. We'll ignore that. But yeah, if a man wants to work it, and this again goes back to that thing where certain jobs will not hire men and certain jobs will not hire women. If a man wants to basically work in, say, daycare, a man genuinely wants to work in daycare, wants to take care of children because this man just wants to take care of children in a completely non-pedo way. They just want to be platonic. They want to be legitimately paternal in regards to in regards to childcare. No childcare is going to hire a man because instantly any man that applies for a job in childcare, the instant thought is predator, and it hits the circular flag instantaneously. So yeah, this sexism goes both fucking ways.
They are to taking responsibility. If you're not happy with your pay, change jobs. You don't have to make it a political movement. You don't have to find someone to blame. You can just do something to change your situation. You can't really talk about feminism without also talking about the red pill manosphere space. This is because they respond to one another culturally. The red pill purports that they have the solutions to these modern feminist problems. Spoiler alert. They don't. The red pill solution is extremely unrealistic for the majority of both men and women. The red pill has this idea that women need to just skip college and go back to being housewives, except that most of the men saying this would never be able to afford that lifestyle. Homie, you...
I'm sorry, what is she talking about? What fucking red pill group is she talking about where men are just like, yeah, women don't go to college, just get back in the fucking kitchen and stay there? Like, I know there are some men that do think that way, like the Andrew Tate folks. Sure, there are those out there, but they are very fucking much the minority. Alistair, it's not even men wanting trad wives. It's not even that. Because trad wife can also include a woman who is educated and also has some kind of a career while also taking part in taking care of the home. What she is referring to is basically this extremely small and niche group of men who are basically saying that once a woman finishes high school, she should not go to college. She should just find a man and basically be in the kitchen and be a housewife and not have any further education. And that's it. Yeah, they're very vocal, but they are a tiny fraction of the minority. Realistically. And I don't, and red pill is more of avoid marriage, and if you do, get legal protection if possible. Yeah, so there you go, Revan. So this is grotesquely mischaracterizing the whole red pill thing. I had a male history teacher who was accused by a girl in the class for SA, and he was fired and put on the watch list, and he didn't even commit the act because I knew him quite well. The guy was my age and had a fiance. Whoa. Yeah, Eki, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. That fucking study is bullshit because men get burned like that. And that's why they basically back off and do nothing to basically come to the aid of women anymore. Because these days, a man coming to a woman's aid is more likely to get them in legal trouble than be any benefit to the woman. So that's why nice guys don't exist all that much anymore because they have been taught by society and by modern day feminists that being actually nice and trying to help women they're going to be the ones to get into trouble by being nice and by being kind. And society has basically beat men down and taught them, don't be nice. And then feminists start reeing and fucking screeching, why aren't there any good men out there? Why aren't there any men out there that want to date me? Because beaten men down so much, they're like, fuck it. We don't want to deal with this anymore. We're out. You're on your fucking own. And you have only yourself to fucking blame.
Don't even have the career to be able to pay for the lifestyle of the woman that you want. The red pill will blame women for failing to fulfill their feminine roles without even recognizing that as men, they're failing just as badly at fulfilling their masculine ones. I really don't think that the red pill's idea of expecting men to be able to afford supporting an entire family on their one income is realistic at all. I think in theory the traditional family dynamic is a great idea and would make very happy, healthy relationships, but in modern times less than 1/4 of men will ever be financially capable of achieving such a feat. In today's economy, the trad lifestyle is reserved for only the most prosperous men. But yet the red...
Yeah, and that's the other thing, Revan, that you point out, is that modern-day feminism views traditional male roles as toxic. That, you know, the modern-day feminism views masculinity as being something that should be stamped down into oblivion and snuffed out. Modern-day feminism wants, basically, feminine males, is what modern-day feminism is asking for. Is they want males that are feminine. They want fucking girlfriends. They want wives, not men, not boyfriends, not husbands. That is what the modern-day feminists want. And it's also why modern-day feminism, I think, is dying. Because of what modern-day feminism has tried to do, the pushback that they are receiving is probably far more than they ever possibly could have expected from both men and women. Both men and women are saying modern-day feminism is bullshit. Get out of here with that nonsense. And so I think that's actually starting to die. And now the modern day feminists that are basically like, don't objectify me while having 100 body count are being viewed as, you're a whore. We don't want anything to deal with you. We want nothing to do with you on this one. We're going to go over here where the normal sane people are. And so the modern feminist voices are getting quieter and quieter because there's fewer and fewer and far less people are listening to them anymore. In respect to feminism, we are starting to see in respect to modern day feminism, we are starting to see sanity start to reclaim its grip on reality. And no, they never, of course not, Revan, because modern day feminism doesn't believe that toxic femininity can exist. That's one of the tenets of modern day feminism. Toxic femininity cannot possibly exist in this current zeitgeist of feminism. Only toxic masculinity, because man bad, woman good. That's where you see all of this stuff where it's like men's mental health awareness month, and you have the modern day feminists that are screaming and screeching saying that men should literally just go away, that men should disappear. That's the modern day feminist. The modern day feminist hates men. They hate men and they think they should go away. But again, those voices are getting quieter because people are telling them go fuck themselves. They're getting fewer in number and people simply are not listening to them anymore because they are reclaiming their sanity.
Pill preaches it like it's the majority solution. Pew Research shows in 2022, only 23% of households had the husband as the sole provider of income. That means 77% of women were contributing to household income. Most guys just aren't out here making enough money to support himself, a woman, and kids. And in today's economy, I would say that's pretty understandable. What I don't see the red pill talking about is how a lot of women would love to adopt the traditional lifestyle, but there's just not enough prosperous men to go around. Given an alternative, many women might very well choose to be a housewife. Feminism might be the only...
And by the way, Bando, I'm not going to say that men won, because I don't think this is a winners and losers scenario. Like, there is no significant masculine movement, like masculinity movement, because there's never really needed to be one, honestly. Guys didn't quit. because again, I don't think this is a win or lose. Guys basically just waited until these modern feminists basically screeched their lungs out, got tired. Plenty of the women that were involved in the modern feminism movement basically went, yeah, this is fucking stupid. And they basically just waited it out until the people that were involved in the modern day feminism realized what a shit show this is, what a scam it was, and said, okay, we fucked up.
Us men don't want big curvy woman, we just want someone who will listen to us and understand us, and not because we're hung or whatever. It's not about sex, we want to be heard and seen.
That is part of it, David. There is still a part of it where men do want curvy women. Men still do want attractive women. That's never gone away. Ever. It is not. That is still very much present. But now it's also there's a shift where it's not only about wanting attractive women, it's also pushing back against that thing where, men are human beings and men should be allowed to actually express those feelings and express those emotions and not be kicked like a rat, not be kicked like a dog for actually healthfully expressing their emotions and not keeping it bottled up inside where it boils and roils like a fucking cancer in their chest. So we're seeing an expansion, I think, of what men are looking to achieve.
Movement that can get away with constantly complaining about how oppressive it is to be objectified and then simultaneously objectify themselves. The problem is that this movement wants all the benefits of feminism without any of its consequences. Say you want equality until you realize that means splitting the bills, unclogging the toilet, and having to kill the spider. In modern relationships, it's common for the financial theory of the woman to be everything he makes is ours and everything I make is mine, rather than both partners contributing equally, which is what feminism claims to want to do. There's a book called Sexual Utopia and Power by Roger Devlin that sums this up perfectly. The modern woman wants all the benefits of a traditional marriage, but is unwilling to pay the cost. She wants a man to marry her without her having to marry the man. Some feminists are even demanding that there be quotas for women to be in executive positions, but they never talk about there being quotas for women in bricklaying. It's clear that modern feminism wants all the benefits of something without any of its sacrifice. Let's be very clear. That is not equality. That's privilege.
Damn right. It is damn right. Yeah. All right, so some things that we agree on, but there were definitely some things in there that we disagree on. Certainly. But overall, not a bad video. Not a bad video at all.